All right, folks, it's 90.3 The Rock WUTK. We have a gentleman who has been involved with this local music scene, been a friend of this radio station for quite some time as well, and we really appreciate all the work he has done for us, not only for the liner notes on our Rita Stilled CD, which will be 5 years old this coming New Year, 2012, but he has just been a supporter of this radio station and of lots of music and arts and like I said, a lot of things here in this market for quite some time, and his name is Mr. Jack Renfro. Mr. Renfro, welcome to the studios, sir.
Benny, it's always good to be here and see you.
Well, buddy, it's always good to have you in and get caught up. We don't get out like we used to, as they say, but when we do, we love to get caught up and see what's going on. Jack Renfro and the Apocalypso Quartet would be the performing league that he has, if you will, that gets together, league of musicians and local scenesters as well, that get together from time to time in one configuration or another to perform live and do what could be, I guess, best called some spoken word with music, some poetry with music, just really cool original stuff that Jack pens and gets these great musicians to join him tonight, no exception, as well as in the studio, no exception today. Before we go into the two shows tonight, who you got by your side today, sir?
Well, today I've got, I'm very lucky to have one of the tastiest guitar players around, Bob Deck, from Todd Steed's various bands, and backing many people around town over the years, like Jennifer Nicely and several other people. And I believe he's also associated with the Unmind Institute.
He looks familiar.
Which is a wonderful local self-help organization for people that are addicted to self-help organizations.
I was going to say I may need a little self-help, but I think he does look familiar to some guy in a lab coat from time to time that plays the Gitbox. And yeah, Bob, welcome back, man. Always good to have
Thanks.
you in studio. And
it's great to be here.
Tasty.
I always put him on my tax return as a codependent.
Codependent of this music scene, actually, man. It's great to hear Bob always perform, and always good to have him here in studio as well. Jack, you in some form or fashion are going to be performing not once but twice this evening, and if you throw in this performance, you've got a trifecta going for a Monday, so you're on a roll early this week, buddy.
That's true, and we're trying to set a record for how many times can we play for free in one day.
You better be careful in this town. You'll stay busy doing that, buddy.
Actually busking.
No, you busk? Professional busking, maybe?
As far as I know, we're not being sought by the law, although the FCC may show up before it's all said and done.
Yeah, where is that 7-second delay? Well, we'll see what we can do to get around that.
I've got a 5-second delay on your 7-second delay. So.
Now, that's art. That's art right there. Tell me who else makes up this collective known as the Apocalypso Quartet, and who's going to be performing. Of course, Bob Deck with you here in studio, but who is the rest of the Apocalypso Quartet, at least as you know of right now, and who's going to be performing now?
Right now, it is Laith Kalani is pretty much my musical director, and
it's a good one.
I've been wanting to play with him for years because I've always been interested in world beat music, and Middle Eastern music's just always really resonated with me. And he plays his oud, which is a Middle Eastern stringed instrument. He also plays regular guitar and resonator guitar. But and I'm managing to coax some vocals out of him
a
little bit more often. But right now he's sort of the center, the musical director, and then of course we have Nate Barrett as often as we can get him, and Bob Deck, of course, is playing with us lately. So it is a changing group of people, though. In recent years, it's included, or very recently included, Greg Horn, who's another multi-instrumentalist guy that can do pretty much anything. I've even drafted him to play bass. Bass is always important to me. It's the one instrument I never seem to actually have. I've had Smokin' Dave Nichols on bass.
All right.
Tonight, I think we're going to have Mike Murphy on bass at the Relics show, not at the Pres Pub show, but he's going to come to the Pres Pub show and learn the material and then show up at Relics and play.
Now that's a gig.
Yeah, that's these are. I keep catching myself wondering how did I get all these guys to come and do this with me? It's crazy to get them. I like to think of it as the words that you listen to while listening to the music.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I mean, when you've got them holding down the tunage, if you will, and again, I think George Middlebrooks has helped you, Tim Lee.
George Middlebrooks, Tim Lee, all that group of people that we just named have been with me in the last year. but before that, I had Phil Pollard.
Oh, yeah.
And the Band of Humans for quite some. We were playing together off and on for maybe a year or two, and it really, I have to give Phil Pollard credit for helping me to think that this was something that was worth doing.
Yep.
Because we did a Mexico City Blues performance several years ago, which is where a bunch of us get together and do a full reading of the Jack Kerouac book-length poem called Mexico City Blues. And Phil subbed on drums one year, and we just hit it off. And I started going to hear the Band of Humans, and before I knew it, we were doing stuff together. So Phil really has been the apex of it, turning into a real act over the last couple of years.
No doubt about it.
It goes back to the 80s and the whole street scene with R.B. Morris and Russ Harper and all those guys doing crazy stuff just to do crazy stuff.
Right. Well, with Phil Pollard, you've got a guy who has lots of ideas, lots of energy, lots of talent to go in with it. So that's not a bad way to get started, man. And I'm glad you listened to him, because this thing seems to be having some fun with it, Jack. Do you? I mean,
it's I keep wondering why people come to hear it, but I guess it's because the musicians are so good.
Obviously. Jack Renfro in the studio, Bob Deck assisting. Jack Renfro and the Apocalypso Quartet, 6 to 7:30 this evening for your Monday night enjoyment at Preservation Pub. And then they've got 8 o'clock, I guess, is when it all cranks up over at Relics, but you'll be hitting stage about 10 o'clock tonight. Jack, one of the things I want to let folks know, and obviously I think when you hear this music and hear them perform, you have and have for some time now been a writer, and a fine writer indeed. Still a member of the Writers Guild, I'd assumed.
Yes.
And obviously, like I said too, wrote the liner notes for Rita Stilled, and even more importantly, and something just as close to my heart, was Cumberland Avenue Revisited, 4 decades of music from Knoxville, Tennessee, where not only did you do a great job of chronicling a lot of the history of music in this town from the 60s, actually, probably the 60s, I guess, on up.
40 years.
Yeah. But especially and more significantly even there on the Cumberland Avenue Strip, which definitely ain't the same strip as it was. So I'm glad somebody at least documented that part of it as well. Before we get into it real quickly, it's been a while since that's been out, 2003, I guess.
2003.
Yeah. What, you brought music and literary together there, I guess, which you do with the Apocalypso Quartet. But that was no easy task, right?
I guess it was sort of a bringing together of all the resources that I could bring to bear, because I recruited people from the journalism business that I knew, and musicians as well. So I was sort of straddling both worlds, the musical world and the writing world. And if I hadn't had those kinds of contacts, I don't think I could have made that book work, because it's an anthology, and I had to recruit people, had to talk people into working for free. And that's never easy. And at the very beginning, I'm sure it looked really ridiculous, because there was no guarantee that it would be published, and it could very easily be a big waste of time, especially when you're talking to people that you don't know that well. I mean,
sure.
A lot of the people were people that are friends of friends of friends. Kind of thing.
That's how I really first met you. Got to know you at least a little bit better.
Sure, we'd
being
never
a part
met.
of that.
And then of course we got to be friends when you were with Metropulse, and they helped market the book.
Yep.
Because of the connection with Cardinal Publishing and the Brian Conley era. So
that was a lot of fun. It's a great read, and it's just a great history. And when and if you can find it, are they still out there
There's
online?
A few on Amazon. And the last time I was, I've seen some on the racks at the Visitors Center on Gay Street, which is where WDVX is.
Right.
And at the bookstore at the East Tennessee History Center, a little further south on Gay Street. In the old days, Cats had a few. I mean, Cats had some that I think the Disc Exchange ended up with.
Probably.
I think the Disc Exchange might have a couple, but other than that, your best bet's to look on Amazon. Just same as it is with Rita Stilled. It's gone.
Yes, it is.
I have a few, but
hold on to them.
You have to be real nice to me to get a copy.
Again, Jack Renfro in studio, getting help from Bob Deck. It's Jack Renfro and the Apocalypso Quartet, again performing 6 to 7:30 at Preservation Pub this evening, and then the doors open and things get underway at Relics about 8, and they'll be hitting stage about 10. Lot to talk about with you as far as where this music came from, where you've gotten to now with it. But why don't we give folks, and by the way, Fez Full of Beer Records is your record label, correct?
It's a fictitious record company. Let's be clear about that.
Me.
But it is my record company.
And it should be your record company with a name like that. So, but why don't we, before we go any further, let's give these folks a taste of what you're doing, and then let's come back and talk about how it came to be. How about that? What do you think?
All right. Well, let's just see what Bob can come up with here. We've been playing around with a frothy bit of nonsense that. We just came up with the other day at practice. So we never practice, but we do get together once in a while.
I like that formula.
As a student of language, I'm always interested in the cliche, the jargon that people use to communicate, and how so much of what we say doesn't say anything at all. And I think there's a kind of music to that meaningless gibberish that we use as the social lubricant from day to day. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm talking about. I'm just saying, that'd be it. I heard that. Tell me about it. There you go. I'd say so. I know one thing. That's the way I roll. That's what I'm saying. You got that right. That's what I know. You know what I'm saying? Is that a fact? You know what I mean? It's all good. Know what I mean? Tell you what. I'll tell you one thing. All I know is... There you go. It is what it is. Don't I know it? You say you think so? That'd be it. Well, there you go. Is that a fact? You got that right. I hear what you're saying. I know one thing. That's really something. Is that right? Is that the way it's going to be? I heard that. It just goes to show. Tell you what. I tell you one thing. All I know is... There you go. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I know. I'm just saying. That's the way I roll. That's what I'm saying. Know what I mean? I'd say so. Tell you what, tell you one thing. All I know is, there you go. That'll do it. It just goes to show. I was like, whoa. All in all, be that as it may, that's what I always say. It's all good. Know what I'm saying? I tell you one thing. I tell you what. All I know is that's the way I roll. You say you did? Now you're talking. I heard that. Ain't nothing but a thing. That'd be it. Don't I know it? Just so you know, is that a fact? I'm just saying, I can't live like that. That's what I heard. You got that right. I know one thing. Well, I just might. The fact of the matter is, it is what it is, and that's a fact. I know one thing, and that's that. And that's what I'm talking about.